Namaste, beautiful souls. Today's conversation is about something I feel many of us are sensing right now. It's a deep shifting consciousness in how we experience reality, in how we relate to ourselves and each other, and the unseen layers of life. And I'm really deeply honored to be joined by four extraordinary women who each hold a different key to awakening through consciousness, sound, intuition, in the embodiment of unconditional love and happiness, and to share something very special with all of you. This episode is the reason why I created the Awakening podcast. Oh, I got goosebumps. One Sunday morning, I woke up and the angel said to me, Natalie, you're going to host a group of very well-loved spiritual teachers who have pioneered the way. And next minute, I found myself emailing you, beautiful souls. And because you're also wonderfully popular and busy, we've waited until this very moment, which is divine timing, to come together. So I'm very excited for this conversation. Welcome, Debra, Marci, Julie, and Jeralyn.
Thank you. It's so beautiful to get to be here with you and with these other women whom I adore. So,
Yeah, it's really special. I'm going to start us off with a big question, and I just open it up to whoever wants to share first, and then we'll just share amongst and we'll flow. So, if humanity is awakening right now, what are we actually waking up from, and what are we waking up into? So, whoever feels like sharing, Deborah.
I'll jump in. I think that I would say we're waking up from the trance of separation, right? The trance that we're separate from each other, from nature, from God, and that we're separate from this intelligence, that same intelligence that causes a acorn to become an oak that's beating our hearts right now. I mean, for thousands and thousands of years, we've been living in survival consciousness. And right now, survival consciousness is really up. And also believing that, like our dear friend Lynn Twist talks about, that there's not enough, that we have to fight for our peace, that, and I mean PIECE, our piece of it, that success is something we chase out there. And that's the trance that shaped our systems and our identities, and they are falling apart right now. And because we're remembering, we're waking into the awareness, the realization that we're not just like these personalities trying to get somewhere. I mean, I know we're all feeling that our personalities are just falling away, right, guys? It's like me, but rather that it's us, that we're expressions of universal intelligence. We're participants in creation and not just victims of circumstance. And we're waking into natural law, into the understanding that when we align with how life actually works, things become more supported. And one other thing, awakening can be messy. You know, Natalie, you said you had this realization about awakening. When old systems are cracking and paradigms are falling away, that's what happens when you turn the light on. You see what was always there. So we're waking up from separation and smallness and into unity consciousness, love for one another, seeing the divine spark in each other, and the deep knowing that we're not just here to survive, but to be love and expand happiness. And it isn't happening somewhere out there, it's happening every time one of us chooses awareness over fear. And I think that's what we're awakening to.
Thank you. I can feel that. That's so deep. Awareness over fear. Like, let that sink in. Would anyone else like to share what's coming through for you about this?
I know Julie wants to say something, and I want to add in as well. You want to go, Julie?
Sure. Yeah. I agree with you, Deborah. I think we're evolving into creating something new. Each generation comes in and they're more advanced from an energetic standpoint, from a frequency standpoint. The old guard, quite frankly, is just dying off. So a lot of the old ways are going to the grave with them, and the new souls that are coming in are not as indoctrinated and inundated with the old ways. And they're looking for less of somebody to tell them what to do and more of figuring out what's their connection to spirit. Not so much religion. Religion can help people get to spirit, but they're realizing that it's all within them. And they don't need somebody to tell them what to do. And I think a big awakening came during the pandemic when people were saying, whoa, this just doesn't make sense. But when people are in fear, to your point, Deborah, we don't think clearly. Our clarity is skewed because the blood drains from our brain and goes to our heart and our extremities because we're in fight or flight. And we're looking for somebody to tell us what to do, a perceived leader. And I think a lot of people learned a lot during that. So it was a horrible situation, and yet there's all kinds of wonderful things that have come out of it. As we go forward, I agree, it's more of a unity consciousness, and people, when they're seeing things happen, and certainly the 24/7 news cycle helps us see what's happening, not only in our own area, but also around the world. We know how to send love and light to those other areas. And we know that that can have an effect on it because university-based research now validates that. So I think the big takeaway in this whole awakening is the power's within. It always has been. It's kind of like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, right? She always had the power to get home because she had on the ruby slippers. And we're all wearing ruby slippers, and we have the ability and the power.
Absolutely.
I would love to just add to both of those, which I agree with 100%, that I love that we are all here having this conversation right now because we were born for these times. You know, those of us who are in this conversation right now, who are listening, everybody who's participating, you get what's going on. And we waited perhaps lifetimes for this time that looks so messy and weird and wild, but it's that time where the crisis happens and we actually wake up to the truth of who we are, to the truth of the divinity that we actually are, rather than to the false self, you know, the ego and all of that. And I just say hallelujah that we're here and we're getting to do this, and that we are. And I also want to say that the power of the collective, you know, there is certainly the power of the collective forces that are really strong in the fear-based reality and the ego. And there is as much, and certainly more, I think now, of the light, of the people saying, let's wake up to the truth of who we are finally once and for all. We've lived thousands of years in a state of fear and non-truth. And yay, let's wake up to that truth.
I agree with all of you beautiful souls. And Marci, hallelujah. Hallelujah is it. And if I come from music, I would say that we've been in a grand state of dissonance. Yes, there's been coherence and along the way, but in general, a grand state of dissonance that is now moving more into harmony and recognizing that each person is a part of a great orchestra, and that our responsibilities are to tune ourselves and then to tune to others, because the power of music is becoming more and more, and music medicine is becoming more and more really a thing. And the bottom line of that, as you said, Marci, hallelujah, and Deb and Julie, is love. And love is the vibration that music carries without any effort. And I feel like that power of love is becoming stronger and stronger, that we see with our hearts rather than with our eyes. We really see with our hearts and ground in that. So as you said, I'm excited to be alive during this time, and all the people that are listening, this is the message. We are awakening to more and more capability to love.
I just want to add one thing to what you guys said. I was reading this thing by Patricia Cotto-Robles. I think that's how you say her name. And she said that, millions of souls tried to get in at this time. But the ones who are here were the ones that were worthy to be here at this time. And sometimes you think the opposite, but she said that we are the ones who could carry the light at this time, so we were allowed to incarnate. So,
This is
Jeralyn?
huge. Wow. As you shared that, Deborah, my crown chakra started opening. I got tingles and goosebumps, can really feel the energy of this. And the angels have once said to me, they said that we were souls vibrating in other dimensions, and we heard the calling, a certain frequency of Mother Earth, and we said yes. And we brought all our light and condensed it into form, into a physical body, and we responded to the calling, and we're here. And they also say that awakening won't happen again. So this is really special, because once we're all awake and our planet is in that vibration, we don't need to go through awakening again, because all new souls being born will never forget.
Wow.
Yeah,
Amen.
I hadn't heard that before, but that makes total sense.
yeah, it's powerful. Phew. So my next question that's coming through is still on the topic of awakening, because I feel like this can really help people to understand how to go through it and work with it. Is awakening something that we do, or is it something that we allow? And what shifts when we stop striving and seeking and we start allowing? So I'd like to open up for all of you to share as and when you feel inspired. Yeah.
I would love to speak to this, because I think it's such an incredibly important and relevant question, because the striving that I know I spent most of my life doing comes from the state of fear. It comes from the belief that it isn't a loving or benevolent universe. One of my favorite quotes was Einstein said, the most important question you can ask is this a loving universe? Is this a benevolent universe? And inevitably, people who are happiest, who I think are most awake, will say yes. That doesn't mean everything goes their way, but what it means is that they believe that everything is for them. And so there is a different energy, rather than an energy of striving. There is an energy of trusting and opening and allowing and being aligned with divine flow. Every year I pick a theme for my year, and this year is I picked living in divine flow, because that is really, to me, the antidote to the old pushing, struggling, striving, ego-based way of being. It's that trusting that life is for us, and that we actually align ourselves with that flow of what's happening in life. There's a totally different come from. It's an opening and allowing and love. It's that state of love.
And trusting that everything's unfolding perfectly, even if it doesn't seem like it is. To your point, Marci,
Yeah.
that you're thinking, well, how could this be unfolding perfectly? This is a mess. And then once we get through the mess, inevitably we all say, oh, that was awful going through that, but boy, that was perfect, because look at all the good things that came out of it. And that's how we create. When we know what we don't want, it helps us create what we do want. And to answer your question, Natalie, it's allowing. We don't have to do anything. We just have to allow it. And Marci, like Marci says, just go with the flow. People say, well, yeah, but how do I do that? Well, stop trying to figure it out. Feel it. Get out of fear. Fear is the thing that's gonna hold us back, because if you think about how a stream flows, It's going to go over the rock, under the rock, around the rock, wear down the rock. It's all going to flow. But the more we resist it just takes longer and it's not as much fun.
I know, to your point, I remember as a young singer, my teacher would say to me, take the question mark off your back. And I'm like, what question mark? What are you talking about? I had no idea what she was talking about, but it was what you described so beautifully, Marci, this idea that it's fear and I've got to strive to do that. It has to be like that and it's got to be perfect. And when we let that go and we allow ourselves to remove the question mark and the doubts, and you come into this place of flow, you're connected to the divine. And what I've experienced in my life is that there are so many miracles that happened that my mind could never have conceived them, could never have really planned them. There's so much grace. And if we can trust, and trust in this bigger picture, and trust in this frequency of love, Julie, that you were talking about, if we can trust in that, then a flow happens that's just really perfection.
I'll just add to that. I recently actually developed, I took all of these things that we've all been teaching and I thought, well, actually, there's a formula. When we find that we're pushing, when we find that we're striving, when we find that we're not trusting, what I tell people to do now is pause, which I've never been good at pausing, but now I actually pause, breathe, say thank you, God, for this pushing, for me feeling out of alignment right now, and then asking, well, what can I do? What action can I take that is the most loving, that is the most aligned? Listen to your intuition, act from that highest truth without fear, because sometimes what your intuition tells you to do is really freaking scary, and move towards what feels good. And then, as we've all said, let go of the outcome. Mm-hmm. Because we humans are so fond of controlling the details, aren't we? Mm-hmm. But when we grasp, we create contraction. And Marci said this contraction is what blocks the flow of intelligence to us and through us. But the moment we surrender, that's when life rushes in to support us.
And trust that the people we need and the circumstances we need will show up exactly when we need them. Based on what Marci was saying a minute ago, trust is a huge component, and that takes practice to just trust. And it always works.
I've always, because trust has been kind of the one that the principle that's been the most challenging, I would say, for me in this life. There's a beautiful question. I just stop, and if something's happening that doesn't seem like the way I would think it was happen, instead of saying, why is this happening to me? The question I ask is, if this is happening in my favor, if this is a loving universe and this is happening in my favor, what's the highest good for this? And I look for it rather than bemoan what's happening. Just be on the lookout. Okay, this is happening for a higher reason. What might that be?
Mm-hmm.
That's such a powerful shift in the mind, because it brings you into a space of acceptance. You accept the moment as it is. And only when we are resisting the moment or attaching to another moment that we want to get to, we stay in the up and down of the life. But when we accept the moment, whatever it brings, and also what Debra said with the pause, in that pause, you give yourself spaciousness, because the mind, the patterns in the ego, the programs from fear, they always come with like urgency. Oh, if you don't do this, that's going to happen, or you need to take action now. But if you just pause and you create spaciousness around you, then you stop that program from running. That program on fear, when it doesn't get fed your awareness, it dissolves by itself and it starts to clear out. And eventually, those patterns of fear, those programs, every time you don't take action from them, they dissolve, they clear, and you become more spacious And it's in that spaciousness, that consciousness, that the light that you are, that wisdom can be heard, felt, seen, and you really start to be in that flow that's always here. The flow is always here, but our mind's so cluttered, and so that's why we sometimes can't hear. But this is the most powerful technique, is to allow, to pause, to be, and to recognize that which is not you, those patterns which are not you, so that you can return back to the state which is already in flow, which is you. Yeah. So thank you for all your wisdom around awakening. I already feel that everyone who's listening and watching is already probably writing down or just remembering and feeling and having like those aha moments where it's landing and integrating. I'd like to shift now to emotions. So I had someone write to me in my YouTube community, and they said to me, they said emotions are warning systems and we need to listen to them. And I believe personally, through experience and teaching for these years, that that's one way of looking at them. I sense and connect deeply with emotions as reactions to thoughts, experiences, and triggers. So I'd like to bring this here to our group for you all to share how you personally understand emotions and how you teach people to work with their emotions rather than feeling controlled and being controlled by them. Who would like to take this first?
Well, I already went first, but if no one else wants to go first, I think emotions are gifts. I mean, for example, pain is not a punishment. Pain is just feedback. That pain is the universe whispering, sweetheart, you've drifted off course. Time to make a gentle adjustment. And the emotions of happiness and well-being, they're not selfish goals. They're signals that you're in alignment with your inner guidance system. I mean, your happiness, your genuine heart-based well-being is nature's way of saying you're going in the right direction. And and here's actually emotion that we don't talk about enough, and it's anger. Anger isn't the opposite of love. Apathy is the opposite of love. Anger arises because something we love deeply is being threatened. Mm-hmm. And right now, let's be honest, we get angry a lot because what we love is justice, and what we love is humanity, and what we love is dignity, and what we love is respect, and what we love is truth. So the question isn't, why am I angry? The deeper question is, what do I love that's asking to be protected right now? And I look at those the monks, who were walking and across the U.S., and they aren't walking because they don't see the pain. They're walking because they do see it. They're not bypassing reality. They're anchoring a frequency that says we will not become what we are, what we don't like, what we see. Again, I'm not going to list all the things that we're seeing right now. But the hardest part is the invitation is, it's not a demand. It's not a moral obligation. It's an invitation to see the spark of the divine, even in those whose actions feel the most unloving. Marci and I have been talking about this for years. I mean, we've been friends for 50 years, so we've seen a lot of people who we just can't understand how could they be that way. And it doesn't mean condoning harm. It doesn't mean excusing injustice. It doesn't mean staying silent or passive. It means remembering that no one is entirely devoid of light, even if it seems that way. Even when they are acting from fear and ego and usually unhealed pain, it doesn't let anyone off the hook. But it keeps us from being consumed by hatred, and that's a cost too high to pay. So seeing the spark doesn't mean agreeing. It means refusing to cut ourselves off from our own humanity. I don't know, that was a tangent. I got off on anger, but...
That's perfect. Thank you.
You know, I find emotions are energy in motion. And I think what you were saying, Deb, like emotions like anger and rage and frustration, and when we get triggered, and it's so up for so many of us right now. And I'm finding in my own life that I'm welcoming that, and that I'm understanding that those kind of emotions, which we deemed those are negative. We don't, we want to be good girls and we want to be nice and kind and loving. And you have these big emotions and they can ground us if we're willing to embrace them and to feel them and to process them and to be accepting of them, right? They can give us tremendous strength. And as you said, like, Deb, we're not powerless. So you feel anger or frustration, and we might tend to feel powerless about it. So we want to push it away. But instead, if we can embrace it, that will transform us. And I mean, I've been finding I laugh because things trigger me so much, and I just want to stomp around the house and just like, okay, just make sound and just release the emotion, and then it clears, and then I feel a lot lighter and a lot clearer and able to come back to that feeling, that vibration of love, and keep up leveling myself. So when we're talking about awareness and awakening, it's like we can't push the depth of those emotions that we feel are not, they're not nice. We need to embrace them. And I'm finding there's actually, a creativity and a joy in being angry and just letting it rip with myself, not on anybody else, but just in my own sacred space, to just be super creative and make to just make sound with it, so that the feeling is energy in motion, and that feeling gets released, and then we up level and we awaken. But that's been my experience.
I'm trying that.
Yeah.
That sounds like
Okay,
Chewbacca.
we can't wait to get off and try that.
It sounds like Chewbacca.
I'm
You're talking like
amazed
Chewbacca.
how often it comes in, and it's just like, Jeralyn, okay, you're in your triggered space. What are you going to do? But we have to release it. We have to breathe it, feel it, ground it, and then let it release and let it transform.
And I'm going to do this right away, Jeralyn. As soon as we're done here, I'm going to go do this. I love what you said, Natalie, about emotions being based on a thought, and I think that they're very often based there in those thought patterns that we established when we were little kids. And so I think the emotions are a wonderful pathway in to finding where we are telling ourselves something that's not true. Usually it's the key into the wound itself, that's always was formed as a child, and that's always making conclusions that aren't true. So something happens and we decide we're not, somehow it triggers us into anger. We find, well, where did I first feel that? Oh yeah, I drew a conclusion that I wasn't worthy, or I wasn't valuable, or I wasn't enough. And then bringing the light of awareness, what Debra was speaking about, to that, and saying, well, that isn't true. That helps. The emotions are the key in to help us see what's not true, and to bring the light of awareness to clear that. It's a distortion field that we're seeing out there. And so it's a matter of bringing the light to bringing the awareness to clear the distortion field.
I agree. And Natalie, I think you hit the nail on the head when you asked this question, in that emotions are caused by our thoughts, and thoughts don't have a meaning until we give them a meaning. Every thought is neutral. And a thought that feels good is pretty much go with it. If it feels bad, it's always based in fear. And I think we've all touched on that. The key is it a real fear or a fake fear? And I teach a technique called the 2-minute rule, because every thought that feels badly, whether it be anger, jealousy, boredom, actual grief, fear, is all based in fear. And you got rational and irrational fear. So here's how you tell the difference. When you're having a thought that feels bad, you just ask yourself, is this going to kill me in the next 2 minutes? I call it the 2-minute rule. It's a yes or no answer in this game. If the answer is yes, that's irrational fear. Get out of the highway, get off the highway before the truck runs you over. That can harm you or kill you. Everything else, which is 99.9% of the thoughts we think that feel badly, are irrational fears. You're running late for an appointment. And it's like, oh my God, well, what happens? The body goes into fight or flight. The body doesn't know any differently between a real fear and a fake fear. So we walk around, we've lost clarity. We established that earlier. Our blood pressure is raised, our cortisol levels are raised, causes inflammation, which is the root cause of all disease. So if we can ask ourselves when we feel badly, is this going to kill me in the next 2 minutes? And you hear a no, then I can say to myself, okay, Ryan, quit being such a drama queen. It's really not going to kill you if you're going to run late for this appointment. But it feels like it is to our bodies. And so I think you said it perfectly, Natalie. Thoughts cause emotions. Thoughts don't have a meaning until we give them a meaning. We can be all walking down the street together, and there's a woman that passes us in a purple coat. And a couple of us say, oh my God, she looks fabulous. That purple just looks great on her. And the rest of us are going, oh, I hate purple. She looks terrible. It's purple. Who cares? But we're all putting our own frame of reference on it. So, yeah, 2-minute rule, make it a habit. You can use it in any situation. You can use it unlimited times a day. And it's free and it's convenient because it works anywhere your brain is, and your brain's usually with you wherever you are.
It's brilliant. I love it. Thank you. And it's so true about colors because we wouldn't judge red as if, so red is an emotion. So I actually like see colors. So I see when there's like anger and frustration, I often see in the aura of a person more red. And if that person were to see their aura and they were to see that red as this, it's a beautiful color. It's just red light. You wouldn't judge it from that perspective, from that expanded perspective of seeing this incredible high frequency. Well, it's a lower frequency than, for example, violet light, but it's still so beautiful. So, like, yeah, just being more open with all the array of colors, with all the different emotions, just allowing them as they are, and because they're frequency waves, when you allow them, they move through and past because you're not attaching to them. You're not going, oh, I've got loads of thoughts connected to them and I'm attaching, because that's when the emotion gets stored in the body and stays longer. When you witness them as a color, as a frequency, as an energy in motion moving through the body, as Jeralyn said, then it can actually move out in 90 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And red is grounding. Red is technically the color of the root chakra. So red would be really grounding for us, right? So to combine what you said, that those deep kind of emotions that we want to push away are actually so positive and they need to be integrated so that we can embody, we can embrace them and play with them.
Yes. The whole array of emotions and colors embodied, it actually means that you feel truly alive. When you pay attention to an emotion that's getting strong in your system, it just shows that you're human and you're alive. So embrace this moment. It's beautiful. And I also see emotions as like portals to, and once you're with it and you allow it and it releases, it's polarity. So for example, anger, it's polarity, and anger is quite like contracted and dense and strong and powerful and fiery. So the opposite of it would be expansive, also fiery, lightful, but fire in the way of creative. So you go within and you move through it, and it brings its polar opposite energy as well. So I think there are gateways to experience the opposite end of the frequency that they are. Yeah.
I think it's also important that we learn to process our emotions, like what you were saying, Marci. Like, what are the key points that emotion gives us, rather than, I think we're so, what you all were saying about thoughts, it's so easy for us to dump an emotion on somebody else rather than to feel the emotion and recognize that's a color, that's a part of us, rather than, well, she triggered me or he triggered me, and now I'm going to dump that emotion on them. Or the same even with love. You feel an attraction to someone and the love is pouring out. But I feel like the more that we can experience the emotions in our own sacred container, they nurture and nourish us in a way that's different if we are giving them out immediately to other people. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Deborah and I had a spiritual teacher early on in our lives. That's how we first got to know each other. And he used to say that all love is directed towards the self.
Mm-hmm.
And that really everything that's going out is actually what's happening inside anyway. So it's not, I wrote Love for No Reason. And the biggest premise of that was really that we are love. And we think that everything out there is the object of our love. But when we wake up to the reality of the love that we are, then everything out there, it feels like love because it's who we are. We're identifying with this, not with that out there. So what you said, Jeralyn, all love is self-love. All love is directed towards the self.
And I just have to say, before we came on live, Natalie, we were telling Natalie that we've been friends, Marci and I, for 50 years, and she said, well, you could probably finish each other's sentences. And did you see how we started talking at the same time? And I was going to say, well, we had this teacher, and he said, all love is directed towards the self. There you have it.
Oh, I love that. Oh, and I can feel the flow and the connection from all of our hearts in our group, and I can feel it expanding out to everyone who's watching and listening. Yeah.
And I just want to comment on this group. I love this group so much because we're all really different. We're like different colors of the rainbow, the sound and and the colors and I would never think in terms of sound or colors, but I'm so fascinated by what Jeralyn is saying, what Natalie is saying. We're just all so different. And Ryan, Julie, I've never met you before, but the angle that you come from is so powerful. I'm taking notes while you're talking. And of course, Mars, well, no words there. My heart.
Deb, that's what I think I come to learn more and more in coming from music. An orchestra is made of all different instruments, and every single one is absolutely unique. And then they start to play together, and it's like, wow. And I think this is this idea of how we are solid and stable within ourselves, and then how we connect with others and honor each other's unique sound vibration, our unique vibrational signature. I think that that's so much more of where this awakening is leading us.
And spirit working through all those musicians to play all those different instruments and all coming together to come up with that sound too. Take it a step further. I think it's all spirit working through all those musicians in the orchestra to help them decide what notes they're going to play. Certainly they're skilled and they know it, but there's still a lot of channeling going on, like there is with your work too, Jeralyn, and with all of us. Natalie, you're the queen of channeling.
Well, we're actually all channels because we're all channels of consciousness, God's source oneness. We are all unique expressions of the one, of the oneness, of the infinite. Yeah.
I want to comment on this because it's so beautiful to experience 5 women in just joy of being together, because the ways that many of us grew up was around competition. And it's just a different energetic vibration that says that I've got to be better than that. And here it's no, I play my note, and Natalie plays hers, and Debra plays hers, and Julie plays hers, and Jeralyn plays hers. And together they just, because we all have the same end goal in mind, we all have the same intent here. It becomes just joy.
Absolutely. And the core of why we like when we were younger, or some people might still be feeling this, comparing to others, or wishing we could be as good as others. That pattern, that all stems from unworthiness. And what I've noticed is that inside each one of us, there's that pattern, but becoming aware of it, we are dissolving it, we are shifting it and changing it. And when we remember what we are and that we are so worthy to be who we are, then that falls away. And then when that falls away, we can see everyone for who they are and appreciate them. Yeah.
And it also comes from knowing that this is an abundant universe, and it's not mine or yours. It's all of us get to have all of it, and there's not this scarcity mentality. There's this mentality of all is well in the universe, and all is available to all of us.
Absolutely.
Well, and that goes back to what we were all taught, which goes back since the beginning of time. There's a scarcity thing, and somebody who's in power, how do they control? With fear. And so we're all taught that we've got to compete coming up, at least those of us. Natalie, I think you're the baby of the group. I think the rest of us, anyways, we were all taught that. We all went into the workforce when women were not that prevalent. And I don't know about you guys, but as a businesswoman, there was a lot of competition, not only with the men, but sometimes it was even more fierce with other women. So, Marci, I think you bring up a really good point to do that. I'm a businesswoman and an inventor, and I was involved in a really big lawsuit in January of 1990. I sued a $30 billion company for breach of contract and won in federal court. But during the jury selection, I was talking to their lead attorney. They had 5 in there, and I was 30 when I did this. And it was fascinating for him to tell me what his strategy was with jury selection. And he said he wanted mostly women who were middle-aged because women are so terrible to other women. And that was the first time I'd ever heard that before. And I thought, what? And he said, oh, yeah. And so I went anyway. So they weren't terrible to me. I guess I had an open and shut case. But that was the first time it really hit me how we'd been trained to be competitive as women, not only against men, but also against other women. And so I've worked really hard to be an advocate for women regardless of what they want to do, and be a mentor to women because of that comment from that lawyer all those years ago.
Wow. I just have to chime in at that because I owe my career and to women, and starting with Debra Poneman, who I actually started working for when I was 21. I was her assistant, and she was teaching a seminar called Successful Women Unlimited. Mm-hmm. And I was very quickly promoted to executive vice president. I was still the only employee and still put up posters and answered phones. But she was the one that got me started. And I wanted to be a speaker, but I was young. She's 6 years older than I am. And I wanted to be Debra Poneman when I grew up. And the only way I got started speaking was she got sick one day, and I was supposed to give a workshop in New York. And I said, well, I'll cancel it then. She said, no, we'll still give it. I said, no, you're sick. Who can give it? And she said, you will. And she forced me into this. Yeah. And that was, so it's women who support other women. And I know this whole group is that. I know this is off topic, Natalie, but I just have to, I love this idea of women supporting women and us opening together and awakening together.
And I have to say, then after when Marci had the idea to start your Year of Miracles, she and I had been off raising my kids, or as Marci's fond of saying, they were raising me for 20 years. I left the world of transformational teaching. And when Marci had that idea, she thought, who would I like to teach this course with? And she called me. And so from 20 years of being a mom at home to Marci giving me a call and stepping into this incredible program that still goes today with thousands and thousands of women and a few lucky men having their lives completely transformed and creating miracles. And that's what happens when when we support each other, we don't forget. I mean, not that Marci thought, well, okay, Deb hired me back in 1980, I'm going to hire her. But, when we really, truly appreciate each other and don't compete. Because I look at Marci, I mean, I think everything that comes out of her mouth is brilliant. And she doesn't agree. Oh, Deb. But I do. I think she's one of the most brilliant teachers I've ever seen, the most brilliant. But it comes from supporting each other and lifting each other up and being there for each other. And it's exactly what we're talking about, not competing, because that contracts you and it actually prevents you from other people wanting to come in and support you. But when your heart is open and you give each other opportunities, what goes around comes around, and 1,000 times magnified. It's a beautiful way the universe works.
I mean, Julie, what you expressed, like to do that at 30 years old, you must have been so standing in and grounded in the feeling of what was right. Like this was just so out of integrity. I have to stand up and open my mouth, and you got the support of the universe. So when we talk about now of awakening, and then Marci and Deb describing this incredible friendship and support over the years, it's like all of us feel like we are rising. We are removing the question mark. We are not questioning, are we lovable? Are we good enough? Do we deserve that? It's like we have to get so beyond that to be in this time of awakening. It's about, how do I allow my light to be developed, to be expressed, to be free, and to be good with that. Like there's so much love in that it's more than okay. And all those question marks are gone. And the support of women with women, it's just, I mean, I know in my own life, it's incredible, starting with my mom, and I remember as a young girl, because my mom was also a singer, like feeling like I'm going to do what my mom didn't want to do or didn't go for in her life, and then coming to understand more and more like how we really create love, and the highest expression of each of our lights in our lives and in the world is, it's such a joy to, I'm like, to be in this group together and share this conversation.
Absolutely. And what's happening in our world is this remembering of the divine feminine. So in all the men as well, the pressure they must have had to like, there was so much pressure for men. And now I feel like they're releasing that pressure, and they're like allowed to feel their emotions. They're allowed to be more expressive. They're allowed to be spiritual. And that allowing energy is the divine feminine. So even in men, the divine feminine energy is flowing more. And so I notice in my groups, there's slowly and gently more, there's still more women in the groups, but more men are going, I'm gonna join this course or this group. And it's beautiful. Yeah. So where I would love for us to expand into now is that Jeralyn has very kindly offered to do a beautiful sound bath for us. So before we go to that, I want to give you all space to share your gifts and ways in which the community can connect with each one of you, because you've all got a special gift. And I know that everyone who's watching and listening, you're going to want more from these beautiful souls. So also everyone who's listening and watching, if you would like to write into the chat what's really touched your heart, and share with us, because I know that all of us, we would love to hear from you, and what you've got to say is important and as special as what all of us have to say. So add into the chat, and let's all spread this love and support with each other as a community. And now I'll invite Marci, if you'd like to share about your gift offering.
Yes, I would be delighted to. So I have a book called The Happy for No Reason Workbook. And being happy for no reason is really being in that state of awakening that we're talking about, that state of happiness that doesn't need circumstances to be different. And so I found there are 21 main happiness habits And I have this Happy for No Reason workbook where you can learn all of those 21 habits. There's practices for each one. And there's also an assessment to see where you are in the Happy for No Reason continuum. And so you can just go to happyfornoreason.com/workbook. And I invite people to that. I also want to say, just before Jeralyn plays these crystal bowls, I've just had the great pleasure of, we were on a dolphin trip together down in Bimini. There were 20 women and Jeralyn was there, and she played these crystal bowls and all the dolphins would come in because the vibration and the energy is so beautiful. So I'm looking forward to all of us being dolphins frolicking as we listen to Jeralyn.
Marci, and I have to say, when I met you in 2018 and we sat at the dinner table together and I shared with you what was going on, and you said to me, this is a book. And lo and behold, my book was birthed some years later. And then you said to me, I invite you to come on this trip. So speaking about your deep, long friendship with Debra, like, you changed my life.
So, thank you, Jeralyn.
Very grateful.
And you mine as well.
Very grateful. I guess I'll go. So my special gift to all of you is a beautiful Crystal Alchemy sound meditation, and it's called For Grounding and Embodiment, because I feel like in order to sustain what we are up-leveling, we need to ground, and we need to have the ability to embody what is up-leveling in us, so that it's not like, woo, and we're floating, but know that we can really live it and walk as it. So that's my gift to you. And please come to crystalcadence.com is our main website. I teach over 130 hours of trainings, and love to just share with people what is music as medicine. Because in my own life, when I had my experience of grief and I lost my son, there was no pill. There was no pill I could take to change that. But sound and music changed my life too. So
Thank you. And Julie, would you like to share with us?
Sure. Free copy of my book, Angelic Attendants, What Really Happens as We Transition from This Life into the Next, how we're all surrounded by angels and the spirits of deceased loved ones and pets. Interestingly enough, university-based research shows that 90% of us can see our loved ones' spirits and our pets' spirits as we're transitioning. And so graphics in there, illustrations of how the angels and our loved ones are positioned. Just go to JulieRyanGift.com, Julie Ryan, RYAN gift.com. And we'll send you a free digital and audiobook version, and we have it in Spanish too, if you prefer Spanish.
And I have to say, I got to interview Julie last year. Brilliant, amazing, fabulous interview. And I did get that gift, and it's fantastic. So everybody go.
Thanks, Mars.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, I can't wait to get that book. And I have a meditation that I created, and it is a meditation on becoming awake. And I think it flows right in with our theme today of awakening. And you can get that meditation at Yes to Success, the name of my company, Yes to Success, TO, not the number 2, yes to success.com/awake meditation. And it's very powerful. It's very transformative. And I know that you'll love it. And if you want more about what else I do, you can also go to yes2success.com. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'll include all the links below so everyone can access it easily. So thank you for sharing your gifts and your light and your wisdom. And now over to you, Jeralyn. We can be bathed by the beautiful frequencies.
thank you. Thank you, Natalie. So I invite everyone to close your eyes if you so feel, and to set your personal intention, because sound plus intent can equal transformation. And I invite you to allow your breath to slow down. So long, deep breaths. in through your nose and out through your mouth. And as your breath begins to slow down, you land inside yourself, and the thinking mind begins to still. And gently bringing the palms of your hands together and rubbing them to generate heat. And feeling that electricity that you are, gently placing your hands on your heart and on your belly. You are light. You are love.
Oh, so beautiful. We are light and we are love. Thank you so much, Jeralyn. And thank you, Julie, Marci, Debra. Thank you, beautiful souls, for spending this time with me and our community. This has been truly wonderful. Thank you for your wisdom and the light that you bring into this world. So from all of us to everyone who's been with us, listening and watching, we love you. Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste.